So greetings, welcome to the meditation, and it's a happy sight to see the stream of good mornings here on the chat. It's just kind of a wonderful kind of river of goodwill, and I love seeing the familiar names, and I love seeing new names, and very nice. So one of the hallmarks of Buddhism and Buddhist practice is freedom. And freedom is a little complicated to appreciate because it's very easy to feel that freedom is unfettered, unlimited ability to act on our desires, to act on our compulsions, to give room to whatever we're feeling, wanting, disliking, just our feelings just kind of to flow freely and fully, and then act on them. And that's not quite what the freedom of Buddhism. The freedom of Buddhism is the freedom that is not ego-based or conceit-based. It's not the freedom that allows unfettered expression of our desires and our animosities and our fears, but rather it is a freedom that's deeper than that, that allows for something in their depths that's independent of greed and hatred and delusion, independent of the whole complex of emotions and impulses that come out of what could be called conceit, and to allow that to be free of us in a sense. But it is coming from our depths. It is a hugely, integral part of who we are. The Dharma that we are, a Dharma that flows through us. So and that's one of the reasons why provisionally mindfulness can be understood as getting out of the way, or as giving a pause of just allowing things to be and seeing them, being aware of them, making room for whatever's here. And a progressive process of just getting out of the way and allowing our inner experience to flow. And that allowing is not acting on our impulses or compulsions, but it is listening and sensing and feeling in to what's deeper. What freedom can we give to what's deeper and more integral, more intimate? That which lays at the kind of the foundation of our life, or that which comes from some place within that is more wholesome, maybe deeper than the place of unwholesomeness or unskillfulness, things that are based on compulsion. And to have the trust to allow ourselves not to act on compulsion, but to make room for something else than what comes from fear or compulsive desire or compulsive animosity, resentment, or what kind of swirls around and gets trapped in the cycles of fear that might exist. So to pause, to allow, to get out of the way of one's own experience. So to begin this process, we take a pause in our daily activities to meditate, and to not so much to make something happen, but to discover what is here for us, and have that discovery be equivalent to keep opening doors to what is here. So taking a posture, assuming a posture that allows your body to pause from usual activities. For most of you, it's probably a stationary posture, so the body is still. And that allows us to tune into, be aware of, the sensations of the body that are maybe more subtle than what would be the case if we're doing a lot of movement. And one of the things that we don't pay much attention to in daily life can be the ongoing rhythm of breathing. And so to maybe take a few long, slow, deep breaths. Perhaps not aggressive breaths, not too forceful, but some deep, gentle breaths, full breaths, 3/4 full. And a long exhale, a long release. And as we exhale, the end of the exhale, to relax the belly maybe. Relax the chest. And then letting your breathing return to normal with no special effort to breathe in special ways. In this process of beginning to get out of the way and allow what is, in a sense, the natural processes of the body to be free of our interference, our wanting, or trying to make something happen. And allowing the breathing to breathe itself. And if that's not possible, don't worry about it. Allow that. And perhaps as a way of continuing to settle in, on the exhale, relax the body more fully. Wherever in your body your attention lands as you exhale, soften and relax. The idea of releasing can also be helpful here. Releasing the places in the body that are contracted. And then letting go of the effort to relax or release. And to really just allow what's here. Allow and discover what your experience is now. Seeing if that discovery, that noticing, can be spacious or allowing, or maybe even gentle. And noticing that gives room for your experience to be what it is, without being involved in it, judging it, thinking about it, analyzing it. coming in close. So it's the direct experience. The experience as it manifests in the body. The physicality of whatever is happening for you, emotions and a lot of thinking. Discover and make space for the physical way it feels and senses in the body. Perhaps quieting your thinking so there's more room in attention to discover, to feel, to sense. And at the center of what is arising, appearing, is the appearing of the inhales and the exhales. And to allow those experiences to arise in freedom from ourselves, our desires, our wantings, expectations, judgments. However the breathing is, let it be. And whatever your experience is, let it be. But let it be in as clear an awareness as you can. With knowing, this is how it is. And as we go along, new experiences will arise. Things will get strong and loud. Just keep getting out of the way to allow each thing to be known. Just known for what it is. In a sense, granting freedom to everything that the mind can know as it's known in the present moment. observing what's happening and allowing it, getting out of the way, so we're not participating in it, just aware of it. And to come to the end of this sitting, the ability to be sensitive and aware in a deep way, or sensitive to the deeper, what's happening within us that's deeper than the ways we might feel overwhelmed by life or frustrated by life. Deeper than the contractions of fear, the compulsions of desire, the fever of animosity. To feel our way deep inside to where there is a kind of space and ease and peace from which flows our goodwill, from which friendliness has a chance, simple, ordinary kindness. These simple, ordinary feelings of goodwill that so easily get eclipsed by all the preoccupations of the mind, our life. And to have some sense, some intuition of a place of kindness and goodwill and care and love, compassion, that is not an obligation, but rather something that also lives in us, something also that flows and arises. And it's something that's wholesome and good, that's beneficial for us to give expression to. Some of the wholesome aspects of who we are grow when we give them expression. And so at the end of a sitting, to give expression to our appreciation, our respect, our care for others by wishing them well, and by wishing that our meditation practice supports us in our care for the world. May it be that this practice we've done today, may it be for the welfare and happiness and support of all beings everywhere. May all beings be happy. May all beings be safe. May all beings be peaceful. And may all beings everywhere be free. To continue this topic of refuge, refuge arises in us when we understand that there is a profound support for our lives, that there's a way of being that provides a sense of safety, that provides a sense of purpose, a direction, an orientation for our lives, when we understand that understandings, that some kind of clear insight that we have, can be the basis or the support for how we live our lives. So refuge is considered to be really valuable in Buddhism. And as I've been saying, that in the early Buddhism and teachings of the Buddha, there are different things that are highlighted as worthy refuge. And certainly what we most commonly know about is the Buddha, Dharma, the Sangha. Yesterday I talked about having oneself as a refuge. And today, when I talk about action, the activities, the Buddha also said that we have our actions as our refuge. So it's not just a matter of, passively allowing and being present and being the recipient of some deep inner or outer kind of support for us, and then trusting that we don't have to do anything. Dharma practice is an active practice. There is doing. That's part of it. But hopefully what we're doing is learning how to act in ways that are wise and healthy and nourishing, and that are free of strain, obligation, pushing, being busy, and free of kind of conceit or kind of consciousness. That is, self-consciousness that's equivalent of being self-preoccupied. And so action is very important in the teachings of the Buddha, so much so that a few different locations the Buddha is referred to in these ancient texts as a teacher of action. And I guess there were people at the time of the Buddha, spiritual teachers at his time, who felt that actions were inconsequential, that no matter what you did, it didn't really have any long-term benefit or effect or repercussions. And some people interpreted that to be that you could just do whatever you wish. It doesn't matter how immoral, unethical it is. It doesn't matter. Other teachers at the time of the Buddha said nothing matters, so you shouldn't do anything. Actually, not doing, just non-doing, radical non-doing is the way forward. The Buddha had a teaching that some actions are worth doing and some are not worth doing. And over again you see in his teaching, sometimes very emphatically, when people ask them a question like, do you believe in restraint? Do you believe in non-action? Do you believe in this or that? He would answer the question by saying, I teach the doing of what is wholesome and the not doing of what is not wholesome. So in terms of restraint, I teach the teachings of restraint that it's a wholesome restraint, not the restraint that is an unwholesome restraint. Do you teach non-doing? I teach the non-doing of what is unwholesome, but not the non-doing of what is wholesome. Do you teach, that we should always do X? And he says, no, I teach you should always do X that is wholesome, but you should avoid that which is unwholesome or unskillful. And I like to use the word helpful or unhelpful or healthy and not healthy for this kind of distinction the Buddha makes repeatedly between the wholesome and the unwholesome. And when we do wholesome things in a wholesome way, when we do beautiful things in a beautiful way, when we do ethical things in a way that doesn't harm ourselves or harm others, so that doing an ethical thing is actually a nourishing thing, beneficial, that is how actions can be our refuge. Now, one of the actions that is emphasized in Buddhism is the action of straight, strong, simple mindfulness. something that I consider synonymous with awareness, to be consciously, lucidly aware of our experience. And mindfulness has a quality, almost all ways that mindfulness is taught, that it is an awareness, a knowing, a recognition of what's happening, that is not interfering with what's happening, that is allowing each thing to be seen clearly without us being entangled with it, without being caught in compulsions of desires or aversion for or against it. So that one of the synonyms of mindfulness, or close synonyms or characteristics of mindfulness, is letting things be. Just letting things be. And so some people like to talk about a pause, even a sacred pause of mindfulness, that we don't kind of hurtle into the future, into the next moment, in a speeding along, going from one desire to the other, reaching out, doing, being so busy that the mind becomes claustrophobic or spinning, or it's hard to notice even what we're doing, because we act, we talk even before we know what we're going to say or do. And it can feel great that way, because it can feel like we're free just to say whatever we want. We're free just to do whatever we want. And so there's kind of no limitations, no frustration. But in Buddhist language, that's not real freedom. And so by pausing from the incessant activities of the mind, the excessive activities that we do, to pause for a moment provisionally, so we really see what's happening here and let things be, and really have a clear, deep, or full way of recognizing that what I'm thinking, what I'm about to say, what I'm about to do is not really so wise, is not really so healthy, is not really so wholesome or skillful, helpful. Maybe I could not do it. Or we're sensitive enough to feel and know, oh, this is a wholesome thing. This is beneficial. This is nourishing. So the mindfulness practice has a passivity to it, if we're allowed to use that word, of making space and allowing and learning to feel what's moving through us. And then as we live our lives, when we have to act, that then we're informed by a clear understanding of what is wholesome and unwholesome. And the sacred pause of mindfulness, the space that we give to know it here, it gives us the opportunity to choose between those two, the sacred choice. And that Buddhist practice is definitely involves a degree of living a life of choice. Not because we're always busy and always having to analyze and figure out, but because we are deeply in touch and feel and sense and connected to ourselves to recognize what is wholesome and unwholesome, what is helpful and not helpful, healthy and not healthy. And it becomes easier and easier, more natural and easeful to go in the direction of health, to go in the direction of the wholesome, that which is nourishing for us. It's almost like, with time, it's like a ball let loose on a hill will roll downhill. Over time, we will keep moving into what's wholesome, because that's what our heart, our inner system, that's the directionality, that's the way it's leaning. So it's not like being really busy and making all these choices all the time, but it's placing us in, putting us in the place of where choice can happen. And sometimes we make a conscious choice, and sometimes we can feel the wholesomeness within us is choosing. This is what's good. This is what's helpful. And that becomes our refuge, because when we do what's wholesome, what is kind of synonyms in Buddhism for wholesome is what's beautiful. Another synonym is the Dharma, what is dharmic, And the word Dharma here in this context means that which, if you look in the dictionaries, English Pali dictionaries, the English definition is what is morally good, and what is connected to a good quality, a good inner way of being, a goodness to it. And so when we choose that, when we go in that direction of the good, of the healthy, of the beautiful, that supports us. That leads us to a inner growth of what's healthy and wholesome. It creates conditions that support the best in us to come forward and to live. It creates conditions for discovering greater and greater freedom and peace and love and compassion. And it tends to support reciprocity. Okay, I can't say it today. A way in which the world reciprocates, and not that automatically or absolutely it reciprocates, but the world tends to respond to wholesomeness and goodness with the same. The world becomes more and more of a refuge and a place of goodness for us when we enter the world in that way. So the Buddha said our actions are our refuge, that they're so important to pay attention to. And as I said, the Buddha was, in addition to being a teacher of freedom, he was a teacher of action. And for the Buddha, those two are closely connected. That the actions which are wholesome and nourishing are also the ones that lead us to the freedom that he was talking about, that support it. So we have actions as our refuge as well. So one of the deep principles of Buddhism, early Buddhism, is be a caretaker of your actions. Be a lover of your actions, in the sense that if you really love something, you want to do it the best possible way. And so you might consider for these next 24 hours, how is it that action, how do you recognize how actions, your behavior, what you do, can be a refuge for you, a support for you, a protection for you, a guide for you, a place of insight and deep understanding. You have actions as your refuge. Thank you.